Welcome to Power the Community. I'm TC Cook. Power the Community is brought to you by the Powerhouse. Our goal is with this show is just to introduce you to people who have and are making an impact in their community. We hope their journey shows you that where you are today is not where you have to stay. Guys, our guest today is a Bar Eve alumni who went on to graduate from University of Southern Indiana and Logan College of Chiropractic. He and his wife, Leslie, are the owners of Omer Chiropractic Lifestyle Center, where since 1995, they both strive to help people achieve better health. Now, they provide the very best hands-on techniques with state-of-the-art diagnostic procedures and the newest and best organic whole food vitamin and mineral supplements on the market today. With this whole body approach, they are able to help people accelerate and or maintain their journey to great health. Guys, please welcome Dr. Jason Omer. Jason, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Tracy, thanks for having me, and thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Hey, Jason, first and foremost, how's the family doing? Everybody doing well?
We are doing very well, yes. Yeah, everybody's good.
Schedules are a little bit different, I'm sure.
It's crazy time right now, but yeah, we've been open the whole time, and schedule's a little different than it normally is. But you know what? It could be a lot worse. So we're blessed.
That's right. That's right. Jason, hey, I want to kind of dive in a little bit. One of the ways that we show people kind of, hey, where you're at today is not where you guys stay is by going a little bit back further to maybe some time that you don't always think about, like when you're 15 years old, right? So back when you were 15, what was going through your head at that time? What was life like for 15-year-old Jason?
I'm going to take it even back to 13.
Okay.
13 is when we moved to the community. Of course, my dad was, basketball coach for 40 years, and I went to move 3 different times when I was, time I started school until I graduated from Bar Eve. In 1983 is when we moved to Daviess County, to the Washington area. And so, yeah, I'd come from Boonville area, and I wasn't really excited about coming to Bar Eve, to be perfectly honest. And I was a football player, and it's pretty obvious Bar Eve didn't have football. So I wasn't thrilled, but again, my dad was a coach. He had the opportunity to go to Bar Eve and coach there. So, long story short, I sucked it up, I guess, and agreed. I don't know if he needed my approval or not, but we ended up, my brother and I were on board, and we moved in 1983. And that's when I started Bar Eve when I was a freshman. So yeah, it was, my childhood was probably not unlike a lot of childhoods. I was far from perfect. Did I stress far pretty good?
That's right.
Even though, parents had a very supportive, family, supportive mom and dad, 2-parent household. And I knew, right and wrong. I knew the difference. Didn't always listen. Didn't always make the right choices. And I knew, the choices I was making at the time weren't always the best. But, again, that's when you're 13, 14, 15, that's kind of how I rolled back then. But, again, we had what I would call a very, blessed childhood. We were middle class. My dad was a teacher coach, later, administrator coach. So we were, definitely middle class. I can't remember, ever thinking that we, didn't have, much. We weren't rich by any means. Yeah. But we never, struggled to, we went on one vacation a year, every summer we went, seems like one vacation. So, we had a typical childhood. I grew up, the son of a coach, and, And we were just at the gym. I was at the gym from the time I was walking until I graduated. Just every winter, I'd be at the gym hanging around with my dad. And when you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you think that these high school basketball players are your heroes. So that's kind of how my journey started from childhood up until high school.
Right. So let's say I was a substitute teacher, right? And I walked into Bar Eve and I sat down and there's Jason Omer sitting in the back row, front row, whatever. What would my initial reactions be of who Jason was?
Oh boy. I was a respectful kid. When I first moved to Bar Eve, it was kind of interesting. I was an outsider, small school, small class of 30 to 35 kids, and here, comes an outsider. So it took some time to kind of, I'm not sure if accepted is the right word, but, fortunately for me, and it's kind of how it's been all my life is, I've had sports. So when you're involved in sports, you kind of have your little group, and it seems like I was, accepted in that group, right away. And then, the rest of it maybe took a little more time. But as far as, who I was and what kind of a kid I was, again, to the teachers, I was a good student. Looking back on it, I think things kind of came easy, so I didn't always apply myself. I kind of just did enough to, again, I was a good student, so I didn't have to work really hard. And I think there's definitely were a couple teachers, and I could name names, but there's one of them that called me out in the hallway, and it wasn't my freshman year, but later, I think it was my junior year maybe, and just said, "You're not trying hard enough." Even though I was making an A in the class, he knew I was just doing enough to get that A, and he knew I could be doing so much better. So that was kind of the, I'm almost embarrassed to say, kind of the story of my life up to that point is,
right.
Things kind of came easy, and I didn't always have the what you would call the greatest work ethic.
Did that teacher happen to teach math subject by any chance?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He said the same thing to me, but I wasn't making an A. So.
He taught every math class. You know who I'm talking about.
I do. Actually, by far, my favorite teacher I've ever had. And
absolutely, because he expected, he was kind of like my dad. He expected more out of you than maybe you expected out of yourself.
Yep.
And he saw that you had the potential, and he was just trying to get it out, trying to use whatever motivation he could to get it out. And again, when it was my dad, whether it's in basketball or him in class, didn't always, maybe like that or but again, I understood that they were right, and it was for the best. Absolutely.
Yeah. Being from Bar Eve, I think people from our generation definitely would know who we're talking about, I'm sure. And
Absolutely.
was a great guy. So you were a football player, and then you moved to Bar Eve. Bar Eve, definitely small school, still doesn't have football, right? What was it a purposeful thing that you were in football and not basketball, with your dad being a basketball coach in Boonville? And then how did you transition to other sports once you got to Bar Eve?
I should say I played all the sports.
Okay.
I would probably say football at the time when I was at Boonville was, I'm not sure it was my best sport, but it was a sport I loved the most. And we were really good when I was there in junior high. We went undefeated and won a conference championship in 8th grade. Yeah, we're going way back now, but I didn't expect this direction. But so yeah, I mean, I played all the sports, and that was my life. Kind of growing up was football, basketball, baseball, just one after the other. And I think sports are a great tool. They can really help to keep kids out of trouble, keep them occupied, doing something. Again, I'm not saying that was the case with me, because I had parents that taught me right and wrong, and again, I'm not saying sports saved me, but again, I think in general, sports are a thing that can really help to keep people in school, to keep them motivated, and help.
Yeah. So, I mean, knowing your dad's story, because being from Bar Eve, obviously he went on to Washington, but how he was a tough coach, and he expected a certain level of work ethic from people. So you talked about kind of your schoolwork, but how did that equivalate to home life? I'm guessing he probably had that same mentality with you at home, that he probably expected certain things.
He did. Yeah, he was tough. You could say that's a good word, but demanding, but fair, definitely fair. And people that know him and know his style of coaching, have made the comment over the years, like, man, it must have been really, really tough, going home. And to be honest with you, once basketball practice was over for the day, we were getting in the vehicle and drive. We lived in Washington, so we were driving back, home, and we left it in the gym. So again, it wasn't a thing that, he was, demanding and a strict disciplinarian, all the time. Once basketball was over, that was in the gym, and then it was just back to being my dad. And again, even from that aspect, he was, he had discipline and had expectations and expected us to do right and wrong. Again, I didn't always listen.
Right.
And between my brother and I was probably the one that didn't listen the most, and that really caused he and my mom some gray hairs, I would say. But some of the things he found out about, some of the things he didn't, good thing. But yeah, he was demanding. He was expected, certain things, but at the same time, all the time he was fair.
So let's kind of stay in the high school realm, but at a high school, you're senior, you're getting ready to graduate. Obviously, you went to USI, but what led you to start thinking on the doctor route? What led you to even choose USI? Even Dad being a coach, being an educator, that type of stuff. What kind of pushed you on into that ideal?
Good question. Even all the way back until probably when I was 12, 13, I kind of had in my mind that I was always going to be a doctor. I didn't know at that time what that meant or what it looked like. I probably wanted to be a doctor because I probably thought they made lots of money. That's probably was my only motivation. But at the same time, I was always interested in kind of health and how the body worked and just different aspects like that, and through playing sports, my whole, high school career, I, visited a chiropractor, on multiple times. So that kind of, again, piqued some more of my interest. But then, after graduation from high school, I actually chose USI because I went down to play baseball. So I was playing baseball my first year at USI, and actually only lasted about a semester. I just decided that I probably wasn't going to be a professional baseball player. So let's focus more, on the academic side of it. Because again, baseball is a year. All sports probably are now, but at the time, baseball was all fall. Work out all winter, and then you had your main, spring season. And again, I just came to the realization I probably wasn't going to be a professional. So let's get on and doing, the most important stuff, which is the academics. I would like to say that after I gave up baseball, that I spent more time studying. that didn't necessarily happen. Had probably a little more free time to party a little more. That's definitely. But again, I was a biology major, chemistry, all that stuff. And again, I've always been kind of a hands-on, kind of person. I learn best, when I'm doing something. Studying, listening to, a lecture or just reading a book wasn't always my thing. I was more of a hands-on. Even from a younger age, I was always, doing stuff around the house because this just kind of was my passion, or was just something I was good at. So that kind of evolved into, going the chiropractic route. Just because, again, it was more of a hands-on thing. Again, that's what we do in our profession, is we use our hands and to work on people. So that was just kind of a natural progression, kind of maybe what my strength was, as a hands-on person. And again, going back, I knew that I wanted to do something in the healthcare field. So it just, all kind of fell in place. And actually, to correct you, I didn't graduate from USI. I only went 3 years.
Okay.
After my 3rd year at USI, I had all the prerequisites that were necessary to go ahead and go to chiropractic school. So that's what I chose to do, or that's what I chose to do. I went to St. Louis, to Logan College, and that's where I started my my chiropractic curriculum.
Gotcha. So baseball, was that a scholarship or a walk-on position at USI?
It was I think you call it a preferred walk-on. So I didn't have to try out. I was guaranteed a spot on the team, which, would have possibly turned into a scholarship, at some point in time. But I was going to USI on an academic scholarship. So the baseball scholarship wasn't a make or break, wasn't a deciding factor of USI. To be honest with you, at the time, I think half of Davies County went to USI. And maybe that's still the case too. So I had a bunch of my buddies were going down there, and the baseball thing kind of helped, push me there. And, and they, obviously have a, good biology and pre-med, pre-chiropractic program. So that's kind of why I decided to go there.
Gotcha. So you still kind of close to home, but then you move away there to St. Louis, which is 3.5 hours maybe then away, and just so happens there was another lady there that was going there, right? Is that kind of where you guys met, and how you and your wife kind of sparked up a relationship? Was that college?
It is, absolutely. She's from Nebraska. I'm from Indiana, so we kind of met in the middle, so to speak. And again, looking back on it, as I know now, God's in control of everything. If that was a total God thing, because I went after 3 years. If I would have stayed at USI and completed my bachelor's there, then I would have gone to Logan possibly a year later, and we were in the same class. She was planning on going to chiropractic school in Iowa. It just came down before school started to visit her sister and brother-in-law, who he's a chiropractor, and they were living there at the time. So she came to visit them and liked the area. So that's how she ended up there. Again, because she had every intention of going to Palmer College, which is in Davenport, Iowa. And again, so I came after 3 years of undergrad. She went 4 years of undergrad. So she was a year older than me. I probably shouldn't have said that. That probably wasn't good. And she played sports in college. So she came there after she graduated, and we were in the same class. But again, funny stories. We didn't start dating until probably 6 months before we graduated. So here we are in the same class every day for 3 years. And, we just kind of hung out in the same group of friends. But literally 6 months, before we graduated is when we started dating. And at that time, most people already had plans on where they were going after graduation, what they were going to be doing. And she had already planned on going to Colorado to practice. And that's what she was looking into. And I remember the conversation very vividly. I think I'd come back to Indiana, then came back to St. Louis, and we were talking. I said, things are going great between us. But if you want this to continue, you have to come back to Indiana, because that's where I'm going. Just, I mean, that's not the way you should probably approach conversation with your future spouse, or with somebody who you think could be your future spouse. But it was pretty much black and white. I'm like, I'm going to Indiana. So if you want this to work, you're going to have to come back to Indiana too. Looking back, I'm thinking, how crazy was I? Colorado, beautiful mountains. And the ironic part of it now, that's our favorite place to vacation because we love the mountains. So we got Colorado, we got Indiana. So I chose Indiana for the both of us.
Gotcha. So, you must have had some really good charm or something to get her to choose Indiana over Colorado.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, for some reason maybe she thought so, and I'm glad she did. I'm glad she decided to come back again. Like I just mentioned, God controlled it all, and He just made it all happen at just the right time.
So what was the draw to come back to Indiana? Was it just family? Was there a practice here that you were going to buy? Like what was the kind of driving force for you? Because honestly, you could have went anywhere, right? And so could Leslie, right? Go anywhere. You could start a practice, get involved in a practice, but you chose to come back home. What was that driving force?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that actually is the reason. I thought I always wanted to come back, to Washington or to the area, just because my parents were still here and my dad was still coaching. But actually, yes, and actually right down the street from where we used to live when we were living here, there was a practice, and the doctor's name was Dr. Stephen Downey. And I just stopped in one day, started talking to him, and I think this was before I graduated. And he just said, "Hey, you want to come back and buy my practice?" I'm just like, wow. Again, that's very, very fortunate timing. At the time he had two practices, one in Washington, one in Lagodi, and he was just wanting to sell the one in Washington and just have the one in Lagodi, because he'd been in practice for a while and he was just ready to have less stress, less responsibility, just the one practice. So yeah, we graduated chiropractic school in December of '94, and I started working with him right away. And it's actually 25 years ago in May, I bought the practice. And at the time, Leslie, she went to Evansville for a year, and then a year later. That's how we weren't married at the time. We didn't get married till 1997, so this was '95. So she was in Evansville for a year practicing, and then a year later, we actually ended up buying the practice in Lagodi as well from Dr. Downey, and that turned into her practice, and I had the Washington practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that actually pretty vividly. And then it wasn't too long ago then that you guys have combined and made the one big practice there.
Yeah, so from '96 we had Lagodi practice, and this in 2011 is when we sold that, and we've been together in the Washington location, since 2011.
So I've heard this, and tell me if I'm wrong here, because I've heard it from another chiropractor guy and some other people who, like even lawyers and stuff. A lot of times whenever you go to college specifically, like to be a doctor or to be a lawyer, they don't necessarily teach you the business side of things. Is that true with Logan also? Like did you learn all about being a chiropractor, all about that, but then they kind of left that business side out? And then if that was true, how did you learn that side of things? Because that's not an easy thing, especially right out of college, and here you go.
Yeah. You've done your research, because that's exactly right. That's exactly right. They teach you nothing about, we may have had one class and just the tip of the iceberg about the business aspect of it. So yeah, we knew nothing about running a business. When we graduated, all we did was, they teach you to hang your shingle on the door or on the building and start treating patients, start adjusting people. Nothing the business owner's aspect. So I learned a little bit just in a couple months' time from the previous owner. Again, just a very little bit, just enough to get by and get started. So that aspect of it, evolved over time. And, fortunately we had a lot of good mentors, consultants, people that really helped us to get that, part of the business down. Because again, we come out of school thinking that, hey, we're chiropractors, we have our degree, and now I just want to treat patients. Well, again, you have to, the clinical side of it obviously is very important, but you have to have some business acumen, some business skills, or you won't be in business, very long to be able to help people. So yeah, that's been a, they call it practice for a reason, because it's all, you're always learning something. You're always evolving. You're always, learning better ways to run a business, better ways to, the clinical part of it as well. So again, been in practice for 25 years and still learning, still learning all the different aspects, of running a business, of owning a business, and of the clinical part of it as well.
So obviously, I'm guessing it wasn't all smooth sailing, right? Leslie's in Evansville working at the very beginning. You're just now getting your feet wet, basically back in the community that you grew up in, but learning how to run a business. And tell me some of the bumps, some of the challenges that you kind of learned in those first 5 years that you wish if someone would have just gave you some advice that you could have heard that advice in the first 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I'll start off by saying that, again, I was very fortunate to buy an established practice. Mm-hmm. Again, that's not always the norm. A lot of times when someone in my profession gets out of school, they'll either go to work for somebody, become an intern or an associate doctor for, possibly a long time, or they'll start from scratch. And so again, I was very blessed that I bought an established practice, had already, lots of patients, lots of clientele. So I didn't have to struggle early. At the time I was still living at home, because again, this is 95. We didn't get married until 97. So I was living at home, had this practice, all these people already established. So, there was some revenue coming in, and probably just a few months later, I bought a brand new car. So, I thought life was good. I thought this is going to be a great life. Mm-hmm. But again, then a year later, we bought the second practice. And again, it's already established as well. And then a year later, we were married in 97. But again, along the way, again, I was spoiled by having that, not learning maybe some of the hard knocks in the beginning. So I just thought things were going to be easy. I thought things were just going to keep getting better, and things were comfortable. And, there's a saying, comfortable or good's the enemy of great. Things were good at that time. We were comfortable. Just, things were happening. But again, that can only last so long. But, I can't think back and remember any major obstacles, major, issues. Again, we've been blessed, and we've always tried to we've always, integrity, honesty, always, the patient-centered, practice. Mm-hmm. It's always about the patient, always about the client in front of you, other than your own, personal needs or personal wants. So, if you go into something with that mindset, with, what can I do to make this person's life better? What can I do to, again, our vision, our purpose statement, at this time is to enhance lives. So everything that we do is through that lens. is trying, like, what can we do to enhance that person's life that's right in front of us, at the present time.
Mm-hmm.
So again, with that in mind, that makes things more clear. It makes things easier, taking the focus, off ourselves and putting it, how can we serve this patient? How can we serve our community?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the lessons that I learned from day one, when I thought things were just really, really easy. And to start with, it was about me, like, hey, this is good. I'm a new doctor. I got a new car, and I'm still living at home. And again, as time went on, and we got married, then life starts,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got mortgage, you got bills, and so again, you learn, again, like I said, that's why they call it practice, because we didn't always make the right decisions, but again, we were blessed, and we still are.
So would you say that kind of because you bought in, both you and Leslie kind of bought into an established practice that already had clientele, already had patients coming in, that transition was somewhat easy. So what that allowed, it seems like, was a way for you to prove and show kind of, hey, I'm a good doctor. I know what I'm doing. I can help you. And then word of mouth can continue. Whereas someone brand new coming in, zero clientele, right? They have to start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Their word of mouth isn't going to grow as easy, right? At the beginning, you hope to after a while. So is that kind of the main push behind your guys' practice, is word of mouth, probably?
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. To kind of talk about what you just mentioned, there were times, I don't know if it was a year, 2, 5 years after I'd started, where I thought buying a practice was a curse, because you're always being compared to
Gotcha.
the previous guy, the previous, who owned the practice first.
Yep.
At times, I'm just like, man, it would have been easier just to go to Colorado and just start fresh.
Right.
But here I am coming back to my hometown. People know me as, the kid in high school, playing basketball and doing some other things. So now trying to get that viewpoint, flip the switch from, I'm no longer just the high school kid that you knew, 8 years ago. Now I'm a professional. So there was, I thought all along it was all positive coming back, but as time went on, there were some challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't change any of it. I wouldn't trade any of it, because they're all learning experiences, but it wasn't all great just because I did buy an existing practice. Again, at times it would have been better to, not have that comparison to the other guy. This is because I heard a lot, this is how they used to do it. And you just kind of have to bite your tongue and say, well, I'm not him. So again, those were some of the challenges, probably. But then back to the word of mouth. Yeah, I mean, we're a small community, obviously, and being from here, people may not have known me personally, but they knew the name, probably because of my dad. I mean, when I first came back into practice, it was always, aren't you Dave Omer's son? That's how I was known at the time. Mm-hmm. And now he kind of turns it back on me, because he'll go somewhere now, and aren't you Jason Omer's dad? So I'm like, well, that's been 25 years, so it's about time they start. He's been he's been retired for 15 years,
right?
So kind of the whole thing's come full circle. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are some? Have there ever been any pushback in the community, or even a little bit outside of you being a chiropractor? I know sometimes chiropractor can have some weird, I guess, misnomers to it, right? Because they're Really isn't anything. By the way, you've always done all my chiropractic work just so I could throw that out there, and it's always felt great. So, and let's in a little tangent here. Actually, I'm in high school, right, playing ball. I sprained my ankle, and they say, "Hey, to get this thing pushed out, the swelling, we need to send you to Jason." And so that's the first time I ever met you. I'm in. I think I might have been even 8th grade or something, but 8th grade freshman year. And you were pretty new as far as having a practice. I know that. And you're shoving the swelling out of my ankle, which that one did not feel good. That one hurt, but I wanted to play, and that's how I was able to get to play. Right. But so what do you say to anybody who might have some of those misnomers or even a little bit of pushback? It doesn't seem like we hear a lot about it in our town too much, but maybe it's because I'm not a chiropractor. I don't hear about it, right? So what would you say to some of those things?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've heard it all over the years. That not real doctors. I've got the student loan,
Right.
to show you that if we're not, it sure was an expensive degree to get. But yeah, again, I try not to listen to that stuff, to the negativity. Again, there's always going to be, the negative. There's some people just love to, kind of wallow in the negative, negativity. But it doesn't feel good. It hurts. But I don't hear much of that anymore. Maybe early in my career I did. Again, after 25 years, it's now like, okay, you can have your opinion. That's fine. I'm pretty confident, I'm comfortable with what I do and who we are. But again, not to really get deep into chiropractic, but we're kind of a different. Again, we are part of the healthcare field, but I would almost put us in the same realm of, it's more a lifestyle. It's more kind of a lifestyle, part of a person's lifestyle. Yeah, we obviously treat injuries, we treat pain, we treat these type of things, and it's all it can all be greatly benefited from what we do. But probably the biggest benefit of what we do is just helping to keep people healthy. By keeping their spine functioning, the nervous system functioning, and a lot of people that we see now are just those kind of people that are coming back just because they know it's good for them. It makes them feel better. It makes them produce better health. And obviously in the time we're in now with this pandemic stuff, it's been a crazy 6 weeks, but we didn't really know what to expect 6 weeks ago. But we made the choice then. We were deemed essential, so it wasn't a thing that we had to close. Some did. But at the time, we made the decision that, are we here to help the patient? Again, go back to our vision, our purpose, to enhance lives. Well, again, we're taking all the necessary precautions, obviously. We have a lot of people, especially the older, more immune compromised, that have chosen to wait until this is all passed. Very good decision. But we've been very just very blessed at how many people need their care right now because they're stressed. I mean, everybody is stressed with because they're watching the news. They're seeing all the hysteria, all the stuff that's going on, all the unknown and all the fear, and very stressful to the nervous system, very stressful to their immune system. And if we're able just to help a little bit, that's why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. What advice would you give? Let's say you had a group of 16-year-olds sitting next to you, right? And they're in a circle, and they said, Jason, can you give us any advice for the future? Can you name about 3 things that you would want to tell them that would maybe help them kind of not go down some of the paths that you had to learn from, right, to get back,
right.
But to kind of make it a little easier on them?
Yeah. great question again. Yeah, when you asked, to do this interview and you told me kind of what the goal of the Power of the Community is all about, about showing people that where they are now is not where they have to stay. Mm-hmm. Then I started thinking, what can I, share with people to maybe help them realize some of that. And this is some of the things that I've learned. It's something called H3, and that stands for heart, humility, and hustle, the 3 H's. And again, it's part of some leadership stuff that I've taken that we are currently doing. But I thought it was very relevant for this topic as well. And I'll just go through a few of those things.
Yes, please.
Touch on a few of those points. The first H is the heart, and what I mean by that is passion. You have to have a passion for something, whether that's healthcare, whether that's cars, whether that's agriculture, teaching. Doesn't matter what it is, but people have to find their passion, and they have to have a purpose and a vision. So that all kind of falls underneath that heart thing. And another aspect of the heart thing that I want to mention is, we have to, not just the passion, but how can we use that passion to serve others, to help others? We have to kind of, again, I've been in this 25 years, and I'm to the point now where, how can I give back? How it's more about giving, than receiving. Mm-hmm. Not that, again, not that I'm, in a position in my life where I'm going to give away all the free care to anybody who wants it. That'd be awesome. But again, it's just a mentality. It's just an attitude. It's a servant, heart. Again, in the Bible, you reap what you sow. If you want people to be nicer to you, you have to, extend that kindness and that generosity to others. So again, it's just the heart stands for just getting that, mindset, that mentality of thinking of serving others and finding something you're passionate about. The second H is humility. And of course we know, what humble means, but I like to kind of tweak that definition a little bit. And because I think in the dictionary or, on Google, if you looked up humble, it would probably say something like, taking the focus off ourselves or something along those lines. But I kind of like to look at it as not necessarily thinking thinking less of ourselves, but thinking of ourselves less is kind of how I would look at it. And also along that humility line is, just acknowledge that, that God has given everyone gifts and talents. And what we do with those is our way of showing our appreciation, back to God and worshiping Him by using our gifts and talents that He's given us. So again, that's part of the humility. Also, another part of humility is realizing and accepting the fact that we don't know everything, that we need help, along this journey of life. Whether it's in practice, whether it's in a profession, whether it's in school, we need help, and we have to be coachable. We have to be teachable. We have to be willing to learn, to seek, mentors, to seek people that can help us. Again, as a kid growing up, that was the farthest thing from my mind. When you're a teenager, you think you know it all, and you think your parents don't. And obviously that's not true. So if there's any kids going to be hearing this, just know that's not true. Your parents do know more than you do. But again, part of the humility is just knowing that we have to check our ego, that we have to be willing to be helped, be coachable, be teachable, and that type of thing. And the third H is what I would call hustle. This is where the action happens. Again, Heart humility is kind of a mindset, kind of a internal thing. Hustle is where we put things into action. And everybody's heard the saying that, actions speak louder than words. So, set goals, take intentional action to achieve those goals. Again, we've all heard, anything worth doing is worth doing to the best of your ability. So again, that's all part of this hustle. Be persistent. Don't give up. I mentioned earlier about comfortable or complacency. Those aren't good words. We always have to be striving to improve ourselves. We're never, right here. We're always getting better or retracting. So again, comfortable, complacency, those are the opposite of, moving forward and of being persistent. So, those three things to me, kind of, again, part of this leadership stuff that we're doing, it makes a lot of sense, but again, I think it helps, can help someone, that's maybe not happy with where they're at in life, whether that's a kid or whether that's, even an adult. You can, again, going back, God controls everything, but he also gives us free will and the ability to choose our actions. And, again, if we can just, think along those three lines of 3 H's of, heart, humility, and hustle, that can really help, someone, to possibly get out, from the current situation they're in or current season in life.
Yeah, no, that's good. Who are some of your biggest mentors growing up and even today?
Well, starting off, obviously my dad, just, I'm not sure that's abnormal. That's probably, again, there can be good and bad. I know everybody didn't grow up with a 2-person household. I was fortunate enough where I did. And, he instilled, a work ethic. So, I saw him get up, and go to school every day, at 8 o'clock every day, whether he was feeling well or not. That's just what you do, obviously it's not what you do now, if you're not feeling well.
Right.
But again, that's just kind of a mindset that I learned from him, just by observing. Nothing that really we talked about, just more observation that, again, being a coach, he was, he'd leave at 7:30 in the morning and get home at 6 o'clock at night on practice nights. Some nights not until 9, 10, 11 o'clock after games. So again, just that work ethic. So he would definitely, be my earliest mentor.
Who would you say mentored you through business?
Like I said, we had some, I guess you'd call them coaches or mentors, and they're just people in the chiropractic profession. So there's no names that people would really recognize, but it's people that have been there, that have been in the trenches.
Did you have to seek them out?
Yeah, we did. So it's something that, that we just chose to, we don't know if this is part about being coachable, being teachable, and not having an ego, thinking that, hey, I know everything I'm supposed to be doing. I know it all, I don't need any help. Well, we decided years ago that we did need help, not necessarily because things were going bad, but we just, again, we can use the comparison of everybody's got a coach. Every Tiger Woods, every top golfer in the world has a coach, because a coach is not focused and not consumed with where you're at right now. They can see it from a different angle. They can see it from a different viewpoint. So it's really good to have some different sets of eyes looking at what's going on in your life or what's going on in your business or your practice. So that's been huge for us. We've gotten unbelievable benefit from just that another opinion, another viewpoint, just somebody saying, hey, not necessarily telling us what to do, just giving us recommendations. Say, here's your options. You can do this or you can do that. And that's from business, that's from chiropractic, that's across the board. So again, that being coachable, being teachable, and seeking out, mentors and seeking out help is crucial.
Good. What's the main focus? You said you've kind of shifted some focus just personally, right? Which is how to give back, even inside of your practice, continue to focus on patients and how to help them and give them. What's kind of a big transition that you've done here, maybe this year or even because of COVID-19 and stuff? We'll be talking about this for years to come, right? Because of just the impact that it's had on our world and even on our local community. But what's some focus shifting that you've done just this year for your practice?
That's a great question. Again, practice-wise, practice goals, practice focus is stayed the same. It's still just serving as many people as we can, helping them to achieve their goals, enhancing their lives. So that part hasn't changed. And I can't really say that anything has changed necessarily because of the current season we're in or the current situation we're in with the COVID. Obviously, just thinking of ways to stay healthy obviously is vital. And again, that's kind of where we're at. We see patients, we're their chiropractors. Sometimes I almost feel like we're their shrinks to it at times, because they're coming in, not really knowing what's going on, looking for answers, not just their spine, but just looking for answers in general. Mm-hmm. And so just trying to give them, positive feedback, just keeping them positive, keeping them focused. We have these whiteboards through our office. We've done that for years. But the one we have right now is very fitting for the time we're going through. And it says, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. That was Albert Einstein, years and years ago. Mm-hmm. So again, that's a very, very fitting quote for a lot of circumstances, but especially with what we're going through right now. Again, we keep going back to God's in control. And we don't understand why we're going through what we're going through right now. He does. Someday we'll know why, but we just have to put the trust and the faith, and look for the opportunity in all these situations. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing, in the practice. Again, just life in general. Probably the past year or so, we've been doing this for 25 years. So now I'm starting to think more. I've always been a little bit involved in the community, but I'm starting to think more along that lines, and more just how can I be a difference maker? What can I do to start giving back? What can we do to make this community better? So again, we're still have the passion. I still have the passion for what we do, for being a chiropractor and for helping people, serving people. And I don't think about retirement. I don't think about, what's that age? What's that, when is that going to happen? Because I can see myself, doing this for forever to some degree. But the focus or the shift has changed over the past years to, again, just more community. What can I do to make a difference in the lives of the people in our community, whether that be kids, like I mentioned to you earlier in the week. There's a great program at Lena Dunn called Kids at Hope program, and I'm not here to necessarily tout that or advertise that, but
yeah, we give no free ads here, by the way. No free.
There you go. They have a great tagline that all children are capable of success without exception, and that goes along really well with the goal of this Power of the Community. Mm-hmm. So I've been involved in that, for the past year, and just giving 1 hour a month seems so minuscule, but just giving 1 hour a month to that, just going out and having lunch with third, fourth, fifth, and sixth graders, just sitting down and having a conversation with them for 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. And again, so those are the kind of things that I'm starting to think more about, is again, just how we can make a difference in the lives of the people in our community.
There's a book, Malcolm Gladwell, called Tipping Point. I don't know if you ever heard of that or not, but in the first chapters of that book, it talks about a study, right? And the study was leaders and successful people in a community who became mentors, right? And he saw that the tipping point of that was, if you just had 5%, there's a huge drastic change that takes place inside of a community, which is 5% of your successful leaders who are willing to be mentors that make change in the community. When it drops down below 5 and it hits 4%, all kinds of issues started arising in communities. And so that's at first when I heard 5%, I'm like, what is he talking? But that's a pretty low number, that's about all it takes, right? But can imagine if you had 10, 15, 20%. So that goes right along with what you're talking about. So as far as you're concerned in the community, what are some, and we don't have to get political or anything, but what are some of the things that you can see maybe vision-wise for Washington, for Davis County, just like kind of piggybacking on what Lena Dunn is doing, which when you told me about, that's a great program that they're doing, and goes right along with that tipping point, right? But what are some things that you can see that maybe we're already doing that we can maybe focus on more in our community, or that maybe we can implement that would kind of continue growth in our community?
Great question. And again, I don't have all those answers, but I'm sure you've met Joe Morris, our new chamber director.
Absolutely. Yep.
And the new football coach, very positive. He's a go-getter, and you can't talk to him for 5 minutes without just being really motivated and ready to go run through that brick wall, after you talk to him. So I'm really excited for our community that he's on board, that he's back here. He's a Washington grad, 87 or 86, I believe. So people like him, unfortunately, our community, we don't have a lot of people coming back. This community, this school system, the school systems in the area produce a lot of very talented, great people. But unfortunately, because of the lack of industry, just a lack of whatever, a lot of those talents are going elsewhere. So again, it's not going to be a flip the switch and all of a sudden everybody's moving back to Washington, moving back to Davis County. But it's got to start somewhere. And I think he's got a vision, of trying to get industry, trying to get business, just things like that. I know everybody's heard, we got the interstate. We got a lot of good things that are happening, that have happened, and that are continuing to happen in our community. But that's probably the main thing, is figuring out how to attract our talented youth to come back and continue to grow this community. Because again, the community is just like what we talked about earlier. You're either growing or you're shrinking. And again, that's where, you know, I come in. I want to try to do everything in my power, anything I can to help to get that trajectory of growth for the community. And yeah, I don't have the youth, but I want to be involved in that. I want to try to help facilitate that.
Right. No, seeing a problem is the first step, right? And that's a big problem. And I think almost everybody's going to jump on and agree with that, right? So they even deemed it the brain drain is what they call it, right? Where you take the smart, capable people and they just leave because of, like you said, what is it? Industry? Is it places? Is it quality of life? We don't know completely. Mm-hmm. But trying to figure that out, I think you're dead on, and right. And trying to work and to keep creating. Davis County is a great county. I was just like you two, but I had plans on graduating and leaving forever, right? That was my plans, right? And it wasn't because I hated this town. It was just because I just wanted to go, you know. And little did I know, I never went and had opportunities to, but I turned them down to stay here. And I'm super glad I did and love this community. And now have a very much invested role to play in our community. And so I'm pretty excited about it. Excited for people like you, for the people that we've had on the show coming and just showing us, hey, you guys are doing it in our town. And you're making a very decent life for you and your family in our community, and you're making an impact. And so that's what the whole purpose of this show is to try to continue to build that, and it can hopefully build some curiosity of, hey, you know what, if Jason can do it, if Joe Morris can move back from Indy and do it, then why can't we? And so thank you so much, Jason, for coming and for being on the show. We hope to do this in person. Maybe we'll get you back on sometime later in the future, do it in person. But I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us.
Well, Tracy, thank you. And thank you for what you're doing for the youth of our community as well. Thank you.